Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Deep Blue Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deep Blue Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 409. Today is Saturday, April 23rd, 2022, and I'm glad you could join me today. I'm making sure I got all the details right. So, it's a little bit later than usual, but we'll make it work. There are leftovers for dinner, so it'll be fine. And, would it be sort of the case where it's like, where did I leave off? It appears that I left off on a bead row. Which bead row is it? That'll take more reading than I'm willing to do at the moment. So, I was totally thinking I would have made it to the border of this guy this week. However, I ended up working on this project when I went to Berkeley on Sunday, and I got less than a quarter of a row done. So, what would it be? It was not as productive a knitting time as I was hoping. So I managed to get pretty much like a chart done since then. So it probably means that I have like 4 more rows and then I'll be starting the border. But I did, so this is Yarn Place Gentle, 80% cashmere, 20% silk, cobweb. I'm knitting the Scheherazade. I think so. Shawl, which is an Anna Victoria pattern. And like, reasonably big. I think I was going to do some research to try to figure out if someone had done a yarn weight percentage chart, though maybe that just needs to be something I calculate on my own. So, like, it probably isn't too crazy to figure out, I'm assuming. But I don't know, we'll figure something out. So, it's a very dark teal here, and it is getting to be a lighter and lighter green. It's not, I don't think it is as light a green as it's going to get. Since there definitely is like splashes of blue throughout this, but it did end up making a pretty nice ombre across here. So this was yarn that I've dyed a couple of times. The most recent one sometime last year. Because obviously the answer was to make it more blue. And it hasn't got a ton of love this week. It isn't a good carry around project, so it's an adult time project. But then putting beads in the bar was also also sort of challenging as well, so we'll figure it out. So it's coming along nicely. It does have quite the swoop to it, as you can sort of see here by it being folded in half. So it's going to have some pretty long wings on it when it's done. Basically, crescent style increases, but with a sort of triangle tilt to it, at least for the moment. And there's still like a ton of yarn, which is what makes me filled with doubt about whether or not I will actually make it to the very bluest part that I ended up dyeing, which is pretty teal. But like at some point it does get a little bit more green. I haven't quite made it that far into the yarn. But that's just going to make the blue beads really pop. So So should be good. I'll have to make sure I have all of my things of beads in there. Still doing the crochet hook for this one. I think at this point I do have it a bit more under control. So I had started it on bigger needles, and that made the super floss very tricky because it was like pretty loose gauge and it was slippery metal needles. Now that I'm on the 2.5mm needles, it's like, okay, this is a lot more under control. So we'll see how it goes. But it'll be interesting to move on to the next stage of the project, but I'm not quite there yet. What has received quite a lot of love this week has been my water bearer sweater. And so what I ended up working on today was making sure my sleeve pickup was right. I ended up having 16 extra stitches in the sleeve pickup, so I needed to figure out a good way of getting rid of the extra stitches. And so what I ended up doing was there are some places in the sleeve where you pick up 1 for 1, and then there's a section where you're supposed to pick up 2 for 1. And I guess I mostly did that, or my row gauge is different. That's still a possibility. Because I'm sort of crossing sizes on this one. So what that meant was that I had picked up like 32 on the sides instead of 23. So I had to find a way to get rid of a bunch of stitches. So what I ended up doing to try to sort of keep the integrity of the pickup good was I actually went through and then I dropped stitches I didn't want to keep, and then I went through and I just sort of tightened up the yarn. We'll see. I might want to do like one more round where I go through and tighten everything up, I think. Or I might end up tightening it up from the other direction and pulling the slack out that way. That might be what I end up doing. Basically just so that, because there definitely are like a couple of spots where it could be a little bit tighter. So we'll get something figured out. And it seemed like I had like a pretty good system going, so I might try that again here. But it'd be the case where what I wanted to do is I used my first ball of yarn. I still have some of my second ball of yarn, but I wanted to knit a sleeve before I attached the next ball of yarn to the body, just so that it wasn't tons and tons of yarn all at once. Basically, just wanted it to be like a keep it simple sort of moment. So that might end up taking a little bit more brain space then. So the dealio is, oh, I don't want to lose the computer. So the dealio is, I am going through and actually taking up the slack, and I think I ended up figuring out a better way of taking up the slack than what I was doing before, which is good. basically I'm getting the next stitch, both of the stitches onto the needle, slipping one and then pulling it taut. And so this is sort of creating a traveling loop of yarn as I go. And that's sort of giving me the stitch placement that I would like to see. I'm actually taking out quite a bit of slack this way. But yeah, no, I didn't want it to be like a giant mess of 50 bajillion yarns. So I have 5 balls total. I would like for as much as, or to use as much of the yarn as possible. The only, or would it be, it won't be like a pure knit until I have no more left sort of situation, because it does ask for a I-cord border treatment, which basically would cover, or would be, so it'd be the case where you do like an I-cord edge all the way around the whole thing. So even sort of that collar area that I had been working would have that as well. I'll have to check and see what the, I'll have to look and see what the treatment is for all of the edges on this, if it's brioche or something else. Whatever, just sort of looking out to the future, that sort of thing. But I do get the impression that I'm yarn usage wise on track, if that makes sense. So it'd be the case where it isn't that I have joined to work everything, joined to work the body flat, and I'm in my second ball. That would be a warning sign. So it's more like I'm 1.5 balls in. So that doesn't sound too far off base in my mind. That sounds about where I want it to be. Sorry, I probably could show my hands while I'm working on this. So that is the story there, is that I didn't really want a crazy mess of yarn all over everywhere with 50 bajillion balls attached at once. So I figured getting one ball off meant that I would be juggling 2 balls of yarn at the same time. That seemed like a manageable number of balls of yarn. And I'm not going to alternate balls for the sleeves, because whatever. I know that I won't be using the whole ball for a sleeve. So there's that. And then I'll have to figure out sort of yarn usage from there, so I don't know if that's going to be the case where, I don't know, I'll figure something out. But I am alternating sleeves, or sorry, alternating balls in the body, because I don't want crazy abrupt transitions. But there definitely is like color variation within ball even, so there's that. Because I knit the collar with one end of the ball and the other end of the ball, and the other end of the ball is different color. Not enough that I'm going to wear it back at this point. I am I'm committed now. Committed to finishing. So that is the story there, but what would it be? Just want to have it look nice, not too crazy. Keep on keeping on. I should probably read more directions on the sleeves to figure out if there's anything about it that I would want to change. Like if I need to have like additional decreases, or I'm trying to think of other mitigating factors that could happen. Not sure. Like if I wanted to change anything about it, then now would be a good time to figure that out. Or if it was a case where I probably could have left the pickup as is and done like an underarm gusset or something like that. Who knows? There are options. I do like an underarm gusset though. It keeps everything nice and close, which I think is nice. And what that boils down to is you end up having like a pretty fast rate of decrease immediately after you pick up and start working the sleeve. And so that can be a nice option if you want to, if you need more room under here for like your full chest measurement or that sort of thing, and don't need that much for your arm. So that's a good way of getting putting some fabric where you need it and taking it away. Speaking of that, I did end up deciding to do, there is a bust dart option in the pattern. What's interesting is they actually don't have you do decrease. So pretty much you add that measurement in, and then that's added to the width of the sweater all the way down. So it probably changes the yarn usage, I'm assuming. But whatever. So I don't know whether or not I'll end up decreasing that away or not. Probably. It's not important. It's an open front cardigan. And the bust darts are there so that the open front cardigan will actually close in the front. Okay, that looks like a much better distribution of yarn than what we had. Okay, good. It's like something that I had started today and hadn't quite finished. So now my count is correct. Maybe plus a stitch, whatever. I'm ready to work a sleeve cap. Yay. So, what would it be? So, bust darts are getting worked because, what would it be? It's not going to be the end of the world if it ends up being a little bigger there at the end of the day, because it will fit where my body is at right now. So it would be the case where like this measurement is unchanged, but way more boob. And will it last? Who knows? So we'll just make it work for now, and I'm not going to be too worried about it. The primary thing is getting it so that it fit nicely here, and that's the size that I selected and the size it turned out, and everything's looking good as far as the pictures are concerned. So that to me indicates, okay, coming together nicely. I think the other struggle that I ended up having this week was that I went to join the left front, or to start working in the flat, and it turned out that my pattern, I was at different places in the pattern between the left front and the right front. I counted the rows, and I had 4 more rows on the left front, which was where my working yarn was, so I ripped back to the decreases and then mimicked what I had done on the right side, because I didn't want to join yarn again to make the right side that little bit longer. I just was like, okay, because it already seemed like I had like lots of ample armhole depth that wasn't even necessary. I was like, who needs unnecessary armhole depth? So I was like, I don't want that to be even more loosey-goosey than it already is. So not too crazy, but I've worked probably 2 inches since I joined. And then the whole process is pretty pleasant overall, so it'd be the case where I think I just worked a short row in order to make my brioche row gauge better match my stockinette row gauge. So it's coming along nicely. So I'll have a nice break for a sleeve. I ended up picking up my yet another set of tiny circulars in order to do that. So it's a little crowded right now. But I much prefer knitting a sleeve on a 9-inch circular over, I don't even know if I have a full set of 5 double points. I might. There's definitely some missing bits, that sort of thing. Or to be, my set is not my double point needle set is not complete, but it doesn't worry me too much. Someone, like, I think ended up getting it mailed or that sort of thing a while back. So I don't even know if I have enough 5s in order to make that, so that might be the case where it would be a mixture of like 5s and a 6 or 5s and a 4 in order to make it work. Be like, it's not necessary. So hopefully the sleeve comes together quickly. It should be nice boring knitting. I don't know, I would also consider the brioche to be in that category as well. So should be good. So I have this just a little bit off kilter from the shoulder seam here, where I ended up doing with the pickups. Oh, it's just shadow. But yeah, so I think I have everything set up and ready to go, and the only thing I'm missing at this point is plunking in the beginning of row marker in the center of the underarm, and then go to town from there. The other thing that I ended up doing, which maybe isn't typical for me but seems to be working fairly well, is so this cable is not quite long enough to hold the full length of the sweater, but I'm working it sort of as like floppy straight needles. So I have a stopper on one end, I have my cable, and then I have my US 5 needle. And so this means that I'm not working as circular, I'm working these as flaps with floppy ends. And so what that ends up meaning is that I can knit to the halfway point. I have both of these circulars in play, and at that point there's enough length on it that I can easily slip it on, and it looks right because the ends of the cardigan ends are hanging out here. So the ends of the needles are free. So it works out a little bit easier, I think, as opposed to having the needle ends flopping out when I try it on. But overall, I'm feeling pretty comfortable with how it's come together. So, Water Bear Sweater, Jacqueline Sees Black, Madeline Tosh Twist DK, in the deep color, because it's definitely on brand. And I'm very pleased that I managed to deploy my shield in a way where I do not get blown out by the sunshine pouring in. It's like just barely out of view. So not necessarily ideal, but it's plenty light enough that I can have the shield partially closed to have some better light. So I'm excited about that. So we'll see how far I get this week on this. Hopefully it ends up going pretty fast. We'll see how much we can put together on that one. And then, since I was super persnickety about following the pattern, that'll make my life easier when I go to do the other side, and maybe I'll be more persnickety on the other side with picking up the right amount in the first place instead of doing this other thing. I figured it was a little bit less weird of like overpicking and dropping and then pulling the slack through, and now that I've made a process for it, it'll be a little bit better. So I definitely hate it when you like do the pickup, you're like, it's all wrong, and you have to redo it again. I traded the pain of pulling the loop through all the stitches for picking it up again. And I think it's still a fair trade. Okay, so another thing that ended up happening this week was I ended up breaking out. This is, what would it be? This is fiber optic cashmere in the Kentucky Blue, I believe. So the Dear Sweet Lovable one had some malfunctions with his various knit goods. One of them was that the cast-on edge for his lizard fingerless mitts had broken. And so there seemed to be like a couple of places where it ended up breaking, so I'm not entirely sure what went down, but what it boiled down to was sort of ripping out that row, re-knitting the row, and then recasting off again, so I needed a little bit of yarn to make that happen. And the cast off ended up working out a little bit more tight. I don't recall what ended up happening, but the worst thing that ended up happening was while I was out on his trip, he ended up losing his hat. So this was the 1898 hat out of the same merino cashmere silk. So nice. And super duper saturated because Kimber, what would it be? Kimber gets all of the dye in. So I was trying to propose like, hey, is there some way of including the blue and the red? And he didn't really like that. And so based on the yarn calculations, I can flop the colors of the original hat. So his original hat had 2 strands black, 1 strand red on the brim, and then 2 strands red, 1 strand black on the crown. And if I flop that and have the crown be more black and the brim be more red, then I do have enough yarn that I don't need to buy another pair of skeins. So I need, where would it be? So the next thing that needs to happen is I need to wind the yarn. They need to be in cakes in order for me to do the doubling that I want to do with it. Or that's sort of how I'm turning this light fingering, heavy lace weight yarn into the Araney worsted that the pattern calls for. He really loves that. I don't know that he realizes what lovely, lovely, nice stuff this is, but he really likes it, and he did all of his due diligence, called the hotel, called the Uber driver, called the company that he was visiting. So I will have to remake a beloved object. At least we got some good photos with it. So I may need to do some pretty serious desk cleaning so I can get to the point where I can install my Swift and ball winders so that I can get through all of the stuff that needs to happen. But yeah, it's probably overdue. It needs to happen anyway, so it's fine. Yes. And then maybe when the desk is clear, that is also going to be a good opportunity to just sit down and put the stupid zippers in. Because it needs to happen. It definitely needs to happen. So I have a sneaking suspicion the sweaters fit right now. And I'm not above squeezing them in because it's garter and it's super stretchy and I don't really care if they turn into short sleeve things, but really need to get that going. And the knit project would have been a perfect stash rejigger thing, but the Dear Sweet Lovable one just really wanted his mitts back. So I had to finish it. It could not wait till a later day. It had to be done. I was trying to push it off for a while, but it didn't end up working out. So, in exciting news, I did weigh my fiber last week. I think I might have even mentioned sort of in my episode thread on Ravelry that I had made it to the halfway point on the project, and surprisingly I was closer to halfway on both of them, so it'd be the case. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure how it worked out, but that was what happened. So I managed to get another ball done on Mist last night, and another one on the wheel project. Oh. Got another one on the wheel project too. So slow and steady progress there. Not too crazy. So I'll just keep working them in tandem for a while longer, and then if I decide I really need to put the afterburners on, then I'll switch to all of the wheel. Since I am at about the halfway point, I could swap maybe after I finish another one of the pulls on the wheel. I'll swap and get another bobbin on the wheel project just so that I can. For some reason it's turned out pretty fluffy, so I'm not sure that I could get the full 4 ounces on the wheel anyways, which is sort of surprising, but whatever. And I'm pretty sure I'm not to an ounce yet on this, so I'll keep whatever. It may just be that I end up making ounce cops for every one of these. Call it good. But if I continue going at the pace I'm going, I don't know that I'll be done before the end of the year. Who knows? Okay. So I have 19 of these balls to go. I don't remember how many balls I started out with. They are gorgeous and lovely, so that's fine. But yeah, so I could continue at this pace and still finish my bin in time, but it's just something to keep in mind about where I am on the project. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess these balls end up being bigger, and that's why it seems like that this one is actually going a little bit faster. No. It may be the case where I sit down and actually weigh this again today and figure out, okay, if there's 60 grams left, then I'll go ahead and swap bobbins and then stow the bobbin in here until it is time to ply. And that'll make the plying really easy. So then I'll only have to do joins on the gray as you do. So, but this bag definitely seems reasonably deflated unless I'm dropping balls places. Maybe I've removed enough balls that it's the point where I can easily put it in a little bowl in the scale. So we might end up getting a change of pace here. I guess that would be weird case, but whatever. Let's see. So I think that ends up covering a lot of the bases. So it'd be the case where my next cast on is going to be the hat. I think I can get away with not finishing the hat until Stash Dash, because now we're just a month away from that beginning, I believe. It's also the case where it's a month away before leave-in, so life will be changing. And so that probably means we'll figure something out. We'll probably be beginning to head into proper hat season here. As we transition from it is spring everywhere and we have this gorgeous, lovely weather because it is the same temperature inland, to it is going to be hot inland, and that means that it's going to be cold here. So that is the nature of San Francisco. It means that the summer months are pretty chilly. It's foggy and 57. So not too crazy there. So I'll definitely need a hat, but I may need less sunblock, as you do. So that's sort of where things are at. Don't anticipate any changes to the recording schedule. So we'll still be in April for the next episode. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I know I might end up going on an epic walk for local yarn shop day. So that's I believe that's on the 29th, or it's on the 30th. It's on the 30th. So I might end up doing that to go to Firebird, have a little adventure there. That may be the case for that, say, a stretchy wrap and diaper bag sort of endeavor. As you do. Let's see. Ended up having a lovely afternoon at the Royal Bee, so I picked up my 10-inch circular and ended up hanging out in the backyard. Unfortunately, no one else showed up, but it worked out well. So I got quite a lot of knitting time in, which was sort of like proof of concept that it was like, yes, I can be out with Mr. Daniel and be able to do what I want to do. It sometimes feels a little bit like it doesn't work out when I've been meeting up with my Berkeley friends, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. I think the next couple meetups I will leave in with Debbie. Because it'll just make my life way easier. And whatever, beginning to reach that transition sort of period where whatever, I'll be working part-time for whatever 4 weeks in May and June. So getting all of those pieces together in terms of regular pumping and different chains of responsibility. So things have been going fairly well, like when I've been heading out on Monday nights. So I figure it's not going to be. It seems plausible. So we'll get it all figured out. But a whole 3 months of success. So with that, I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I look forward to talking to you guys next week. So take care, guys. Bye-bye.